Medieval peasants were not eating cheese before bed, contrary to popular belief. This is what they were really eating. Peasants lived very hard lives. They worked long hours from sunrise to sunset. And after their days of working in the fields, many would enjoy a relaxing evening, but not always as we might imagine. Join us today as we look at what the common peasant ate before bed, starting with porridge. Porridge was an incredibly common food for peasants to eat before going to bed because it was easy to make and filled them up so they could get a good night's rest. The type of porridge they ate varied depending on what region of Europe they lived in, with wheat and oats being some of the most popular grains used. There was also the occasional barley or rye porridge, though these were less common than wheat and oat. Because the preparation for porridge was so simple, it made it perfect for peasants to eat before bed, especially since they had to wake up early for work. All they needed was water, grain, a little bit of salt, and maybe some fruit if they were lucky. In most cases, they simply poured boiling water over the grain and then left it to soak overnight. Come morning, the resulting mush was ready to eat. Sometimes they even mixed in some milk if they had access to it. But more often than not, porridge was a cold breakfast for peasants who couldn't spare the time to warm it up over a fire. They typically ate it while they tended to other chores around the homestead. It was then uncommon for a family to sit together enjoying a bowl of porridge while tending to animals or weaving cloth. It may not sound like a very exciting meal, but for many families this was their life. But what about those pesky bedbugs? Let's take a look at that next. We all know the old wives' tale about the 3 little pigs and their beds made of straw, sticks, and stones. Well, there may be something to this seemingly fantastical story. See, when peasants slept, they liked to put a layer of straw on their beds. Straw mattresses weren't comfortable by any means, but they did have one benefit over more traditional hay mattresses. Unlike hay, straw didn't attract vermin such as mice and rats. As you can imagine, rodents are known to carry diseases and parasites, which could quickly spread through a peasant village if they were sleeping on hay. Straw was also cheaper than hay and easier to come by, making it the preferred material for peasant mattresses. Unfortunately, this meant that when bedbugs found their way into a peasant's home, they would happily set up shop on the straw mattress. The only thing worse than being bitten by a bedbug is waking up to the sight of one crawling across your straw mattress. Some peasants tried to combat this problem by sprinkling their beds with things like lavender, mint, or rue. These herbs are known to repel insects, so it made sense to use them on their beds. Unfortunately, this didn't always work as intended, and sometimes the smell of these herbs would just mix with the smell of the bedbugs, creating a truly horrendous stench. Others tried to keep the bugs away by putting their mattresses out in the open air during the day. Since bedbugs preferred dark, secluded places, this method worked well. But there were downsides. The sun would quickly ruin the straw mattress, meaning it would need to be replaced more often. Still, it was worth it for many peasants to enjoy a good night's sleep without being bitten by bedbugs. Next, let's talk about ale. Most people think that during the Middle Ages, everyone drank wine with dinner, but this isn't exactly true. Wine was a luxury good during the Middle Ages. Most peasants couldn't afford it, nor did they want to waste their money on something so decadent. Instead, most peasants drank ale, a type of beer made from water, barley, and hops. Ale was a staple in most peasant households and was enjoyed by both adults and children alike. It was considered safe to drink and was often the only non-water beverage available to peasants. Many peasants brewed their own ale at home, and it was customary for them to share their excess with their neighbors and friends. In fact, it was considered rude not to share one's ale with guests. So even if a peasant didn't have enough ale for everyone, they would still offer what they had. Ale was also an important part of many religious festivals and celebrations. During harvest time, for example, it was customary for peasants to hold a feast and give thanks to God for the year's bounty. And of course, no feast was complete without ale. It's no wonder then that peasants often ate ale bread before bed. Ale bread was a type of flat bread that was made with ale instead of water. This made it slightly alcoholic and gave it a unique flavor and texture. For peasants who worked long and hard hours, ale bread was a welcome treat before bed. Not only did it taste good, but it also gave them a little bit of alcohol to help them relax and fall asleep. Next, we have to talk about nuts. Nuts were a popular snack for peasants before bed because they were easy to store and provided a quick source of energy. Nuts also had another benefit. They were a good way to sneak in a little bit of fat without eating too many calories. For peasants who worked hard physically, this was important because they needed to make sure they were getting enough fat to stay healthy. However, there was a downside to eating nuts before bed. Nuts are high in sugar, which can cause a person to have nightmares. While this may not seem like a big deal to us now, it was a serious problem for the peasants. You see, many peasants believed that bad dreams were caused by evil spirits trying to enter their bodies. If a peasant had a nightmare, he might believe that he had been possessed by a demon. This could lead to him being shunned by the community or even tortured for being a heretic. To avoid this, many peasants would eat a small handful of nuts before bed. This gave them just enough sugar to help them fall asleep without risking having a nightmare. Walnuts, hazelnuts, and acorns were all popular choices for peasants because they were easy to find and had a low sugar content. Last but not least, we have to talk about fruit. Fruit was a popular snack for peasants before bed because it was sweet and refreshing. After a long day of working in the fields, peasants were often tired and hungry. Fruit was a perfect snack because it was easy to eat and didn't require much effort. It also helped that many fruits were in season during the summer months. This meant that peasants had plenty of options to choose from. Some of the most popular fruits eaten by peasants before bed included apples, pears, plums, and cherries. These fruits were all easy to grow and had a long shelf life, meaning they could be enjoyed for several weeks. In addition to being tasty and convenient, fruit also had some health benefits. It was high in vitamins and minerals, which helped peasants stay healthy while working long and hard hours. Of course, not all peasants had access to fresh fruit. Those who lived in colder climates or during the winter months often had to rely on dried fruit. Dried fruit wasn't quite as tasty as fresh fruit, but it was still a welcome snack for many peasants. So what do you think? Were you surprised to learn what medieval peasants ate before bed? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and check back soon for more videos about life in the Middle Ages, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.